Let's go ahead and get you played in here.
All right. So first of all, the situation for pets is unfortunately also dire regarding vaccines, if not worse in some aspects. Like for example, in our case, we get some for example fundamental childhood shots or vaccines we get only once in our life, but in case of animals, they get annual vaccinations. So basically, that this situation is even worse. Okay, so today we are indeed going to talk about vaccinations, and since it's a very broad and problematic topic, we'll take probably more than one short segment to explain why annual vaccinations are dangerous and unnecessary. And even some veterinarians claim that we shouldn't vaccinate our pets even once, that even one so-called puppy shot may jeopardize the health of our pets and trigger an autoimmune disease. But since it's a big topic, let's take it step by step. Okay, so first of all, let me share you a story by my favorite natural veterinarian, Dr. Karen Becker. She shared a story from her time when she was in veterinary school. Now, it's a bit different system for me. I study, as I already told before, I study in East European school, and it's a bit different in US. So she said that basically one of the things that were mandatory for every student was to receive a rabies vaccination before starting the studies. And she said that that it's actually mandatory. Well, for us, luckily, it's not mandatory. Well, so we were able all to avoid it. So she said something like this. She said that because she was already an activist with wild preservation of wild animals, then she was told that she can do a titer, something that's called titer, to basically measure the amount of antibodies in her organism, in her system, to check the amount of rabies antibodies, to see if basically this vaccine is necessary for her. And the amount of antibodies is something like about 50. Basically, the minimum amount is, no less than 50. And she had like 100 times more than this when she did a test. And she took this rabies vaccine like years ago, years before she basically was admitted to the school, to the veterinary school. And she was told indeed that there was unnecessary for her to take this rabies vaccination again. And so she wondered, and that's basically what other veterinarians, more conscientious veterinarians are wondering, why we as humans take major vaccinations, core vaccinations in our childhood only once, but for pets, they are basically forced to take those vaccines annually, year after year. Something is really wrong here because our physiology is basically the same. There are some minor changes, but it's the same. So what's going on here? And it turns out that it's just like with human vaccines, it's a big business. It's a big money-making business where veterinarians are using fear by, they send those letters, they send those cards to the customers that hurry up, you have only 7 days left before your annual vaccination. It's very important that you will come up and do it on time. And most of the people are not aware of how those things work, and they are even less aware, how immune system works and why it's really unnecessary. So basically, we are going to talk about that, what you can do, what you should do regarding vaccinations for pets, and what you can ask your veterinarian to do before you're submitted for another, your pet is submitted for another annual vaccination. So what are the most, what is the most danger of vaccines for pets? Now, what happens regarding vaccines? That they basically can trigger an autoimmune disease. They can jeopardize the health of the pet. They can lessen. Well, it's basically the same as for humans. That it can, lessen the immune system, trigger all kinds of diseases, skin diseases, heart diseases. Every predisposition the pet may have, they can trigger such problems. So basically, what it's important to remember that there are core vaccines and there are non-core vaccines. Like, for example, there are core vaccines for dogs like distemper, parvo, adenovirus, and of course rabies. And for kittens, it's pauleukopenia, calicivirus, herpes virus, and also rabies. And basically the accepted right now, the less damaging protocol for pets is that your puppy or your kitten gets the puppy shots until, like, for example, 3-4 months of age before the change of the teeth. And then you should wait a bit, and then what you should do is that your veterinarian usually will ask you to do another shot. But instead of coming for another shot, you should ask your veterinarian for a titer, for making a titer, because you should check first of all if this vaccine was able to immunize your pet, because there are some vaccinations where there are some vaccines where you can get a shot, but there won't be any immune response. So you basically got your pet shot for nothing, and you need to vaccinate again. So you can check the titer, and if there are already antibodies produced, there is really no need to vaccinate again. And so you can say, well, that and then next time, for example, if the veterinarian will say to you that you need to come again for an annual revaccination, you can say to him that according to new regulations, there is some American association, something that has to do with the vaccines, that according to new regulations, you can come after 3 years and then even less to revaccinate. But even in this case, you should ask for a titer again and see if there was any change in the number of antibodies. Because if there was no change, or maybe even there was a bit lesser number, you still don't really need to revaccinate again. It just causes additional damage. And for example, for indoor kittens, that, for example, you have an indoor kitten that never come into contact with other outdoor cats. So in this case, you don't even have to vaccinate with those 4 core vaccines, but only with panleukopenia. And the last dose should be at 14 to 16 weeks, because by the time the kitten will no longer have the protection passed from the mother cat. And this is another bigger issue, that in the past, in the 70s or something like this, until 70s, they were doing another test that was basically testing maternally passed antibodies that were passed to puppies and kittens from the mother. And then they were able to check they were able to determine the exact time of vaccination by the lessening amount of maternal antibodies, and also to see if and when there was necessary to vaccinate at all. There was a so-called nomograph for puppies to determine whether they could be effectively vaccinated. So this is one of the things that they are not doing anymore. It's one of the things that it takes time, and so and basically it prevents from veterinarian to get his or her money for the vaccination. So in order to speed up the business, to make the business more effective, they removed this option, and they removed it. They stopped saying to, and I'm sure that many veterinarians even are not aware of this option, that they can check both maternal antibodies and also antibodies after vaccination to check the titer, to see if there is any need at all to revaccinate, because really, they call it booster, annual booster, while in reality, if I think that I'll leave the explanation about the immune system and how and what exactly happens in the immune system whenever vaccine is entered, and all the reactions and whatever happens to the next segment. But basically, I will only say that whenever any antigen is entering the body, not only antibodies are created, but also memory cells that basically immune system remembers the pathogen, remembers the danger, and so it can react again. There is no need for any boosts to remind it of the danger. You can say that it's basically it has a memory of an elephant. It's a memory for life. So it's basically it's frustrating because it's the biggest lie there is, and one of the things that I remember, one of the teachers here said to me that he has a friend, veterinarian also, that specializes in dermatology. And he said that, wow, dermatology is like the best field there is in veterinary science, because the patients are always coming back. They will never get over those diseases. And it's like you just lessen the problem a bit with steroids and stuff, but then again, the immune system is a bit compromised, and then all the skin problems are triggered again. And he says that, wow, that's like a gold mine, basically. Well, that's just to give you an example of veterinarians that, well, not exactly ethical, so to say. But and one of the things that many of them are, you can say, benefiting from the racket that vaccines are, but they are not really aware of that, or maybe they are aware of it, I don't know, but that vaccines are basically the major trigger for all of those diseases. They trigger for all the allergies and autoimmune diseases, skin diseases, as I said before. It's not surprising when especially the more pure breed the dog is. For example, mutts are able to handle vaccinations or other problems more easily, but the purer the breed, the more problems they have. And why? Because they already have predisposition for their breed, all kinds of predispositions, heart diseases, kidney diseases, breathing diseases, and so this just being made worse, or actually being activated by the vaccine. And so the puppy that could live, happily without any disease being triggered, now his system is being compromised by the vaccine, and so there is this cascade effect that basically jeopardizes everything. So I think that for this segment it's a bit general, but next time we will talk about vaccines. I will make sure to explain more about immune system and what exactly happens, and why some of the veterinarians, like for example, there are some veterinarians that accept the possibility of the first puppy shot and that's it. For now, for you, the important message that you should take with you home and to your veterinarian, that if you have a puppy, then yes, okay, there are some legal regulations, like for example about rabies. There is no way around it. In many places it's the law that you have to vaccinate rabies. So okay, you have no choice, vaccinate rabies. Whatever is the law, you have no choice, you have to vaccinate. There are some places where rabies is, like for example, mandatory every year, annually. So, well, some veterinarians say, well, you can't basically break the law, but, you don't have to vaccinate annually rabies. If you can, avoid it. But regarding other vaccinations, with distemper and parvovirus, well, it's a real danger. And I myself saw dogs almost dying, and some died from parvovirus. So it's a very serious disease. Well, basically, if your dog comes in contact with other dogs, it's very contagious. So maybe it's probably for the best to vaccinate with those core vaccines. With cats, with kittens, as was said before, panleukopenia, it's basically a feline parvovirus. It's panleukopenia it's a parvo for kittens. And so even if the cat doesn't go outside, panleukopenia is the must. But with the other vaccines, well, you don't have to. Like, for example, here in East Europe, in the country where I reside, rabies, even if your pet doesn't leave the house, even rabies are not mandatory. So you should check, in the country where you live, if you can just avoid it, and that's it. But then, if you have a grown-up dog or a cat, and you know that you were already vaccinated, and you get those reminders from your veterinarian that you should come and vaccinate, okay, come for a general checkup, but ask a doctor if they can do a titer to check the level of antibodies for those specific viruses, for those specific viruses that are contained in core vaccines, and see his reaction. If and see what he says. If they do, because some countries don't do it, like for example here we don't do it, unfortunately, but in European countries or in US, I think they will be able to do it. And as for other non-core vaccinations, like there is a leukemia vaccine for cats, or other, vaccinations, then don't touch it at all. Don't agree to it. There is nothing, this is even much worse than the core vaccines. Core vaccines are much better because they were checked and rechecked again and again. And one of the good things for veterinary science, at least this is what one of the main immunologists in USA said, that vaccines for pets don't contain mercury. And I'm not sure about aluminium, but he said that basically it's mostly for humans. So yeah, in this case, humans are in disadvantage because apparently vaccination field for pets is more advanced than humans, or at least this is what he said. Yes.
It does seem that way. Even in the United States, there are laws against injecting mercury into animals, either farm animals or pets.
Yes, mercury is already outlawed, and it was actually once also used as basically to treat all kinds of diseases in cattle, but now it's also outlawed. So they, there is only formaldehyde, for example, is used to treat specific poisons in cattle. But it's because of their very specific physiology, because of their, poor stomachs. So that's
Sure.
something very, very specific. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think that for the topic for the vaccines for this week, I think it's I hope that it was interesting and informative enough. If you have any questions, you can always ask, and I can cover it later. in later shows about vaccines. I also received another question from a listener. Do I have a time still to cover it?
Certainly, yeah.
Okay. So the listener asks questions like this. I have a little Cavalier King Charles Spaniel who turns around in a circle at least 22 times before finally squatting to pee. Why are they turning and why so many times? Well, first of all, it usually, in specific cases like this, it's better not to give advice without actually seeing the animal because it can be a lot of reasons for it. But when it comes to Cavaliers, they are very, very cute puppies, but they are also have a lot of predispositions for various health problems. Heart problems like mitral valve disease that can lead to heart failure. They have something called syringomyelia. They also have hip dysplasia, all kinds of problems. But in this particular case, if I were to speculate, they have hereditary eye issues. And also they have typical for other spaniels ear problems. And that are also connected to a central nervous system problems or coordination center. So basically, it's possible, without seeing the puppy, I can speculate that it's possible that maybe the puppy doesn't see well, or maybe there is some problem with ears that affects the coordination center. And this way, he basically turns and turns to find the proper place. Basically, that because it seems to us that dogs and cats are, just sitting and doing their thing. But there was even not long ago an article, a very interesting article. I don't know if you saw it on Sott, but there was an article regarding that dogs pee and do other business in accordance with electromagnetic fields. That they are basically squat to the north, to the electromagnetic center or to the north. I can assure you that it's not an easy business.
Thank you very much for addressing that question. We're coming up towards the end of our time here.
Sure, no problem.
Yeah. Okay.